Hey Wargamers, today I want to talk about how disappointing it is that there are no new rules for the new Farsight model. Now, this is something that when the model was first announced, I said for sure there will be no rules, even though they haven't talked about them at all. There surely will be new rules because the new model is so drastically different than the old. Surely that massive change to the model would warrant new rules. And yet here I am without new rules. Also without the new model because of production issues. So anyway, let's talk about how disappointing that is and potentially how we could make some homebrew rules to deal with this. So the new Farsight model has tons of upgrades compared to the old one. Specifically, and perhaps the largest, is that it is a larger suit. It's based on a cold star and not a standard crisis suit. The lore here is that Ovesa, our main Earthcast engineer for the Enclaves, has designed Farsight a brand new suit based on the Cold Star frame. So it's an XV86, just like the Cold Star. It is essentially a modified Cold Star, and it's called the Supernova. That Supernova has its own AI, just like the Cold Star does, just like Farsight is used to interacting with in the novels. And that AI is able to make Farsight a much more effective fighter and utilize command and control nodes, which both in-game and in lore are very useful pieces of technology for commanders in order to make their fighting forces more effective. Also, a huge deal is that it has an integrated talisman of Arthas Moloch. This, perhaps more than anything, even if we want to ignore the game mechanics of being larger, being based on a different suit, this is just pure and simple added war gear. There's nothing to reflect this in his current rules, right? You can make an argument that he's in a battle suit. There are rules to reflect that he's in a battle suit. He's a commander. There are rules to reflect that he's a commander. There are no rules to reflect that he has this talisman of Arthas Moloch, and that is its own a huge basis for simply adding a line to his data sheet. So why don't we have them? Well, probably because 10th edition is just coming. Right? 10th edition is right around the corner. The production team is focused on that. They are crunching out rules and everything for that. They're working very hard to get 10th edition out and have a whole slew of rules available to us when that launches. So, money is that, that we don't have new rules because they're busy doing other things. And they just didn't prioritize this. Also, the current rules are serviceable, even if they're not particularly flashy or well-suited to the current model or the new model. Also, maybe they are betting a little bit on the fact that not many people are going to be able to get the rules, right? If there aren't very many people that are, or rather the model, if not very many people are able to get the model, then does it really matter if there are new rules? And then finally, there are some constraints to the 9th edition format in terms of warlord traits and how units function that maybe some of the things that they really would want to do with Farsight are just kind of, not hard, but inconvenient to work into that framework. So I could see why there aren't new rules. I'm still disappointed, but, there are some logical reasons for why this hasn't happened. Now, set all those aside, what are we going to do about it? Well, if we want to make our own homebrew rules, we have to think about what those rules should have been and try to restrain ourselves a little bit, right? Like, I think homebrew rules are fun and cool in a particular environment, but I never want to be the guy that sits down and says, okay, here's my model that, can do a million different things and is impossible to kill. Aren't we having fun? That's not the point, right? The point is to try to come up with reasonable rules that reflect the model and do so in a, what we expect to be a balanced way. Now, I'm just one person. I don't have access to, a playtest team or anything like that. And so, these probably could use some refinement, let's say. But nonetheless, things that we would expect in those rules would be an improved stat line, at least for his movement because he's in a cold star and not a crisis suit. He should have some sort of psychic defense because he has that integrated talisman of Arthas Moloch. And then he probably should have some sort of improved close range fighting ability due to the command control nodes and the Supernova AI, right? Like there should be some augmentation to his abilities because of the supposed amazing capabilities of this new AI and its technology beyond just being faster. Okay, and so this is what I came up with. It's mostly the same stuff. Again, I want to keep it to be reasonable, and if we say that the old Farsight rules were reasonable, I want to keep a lot of that. And to be honest, a lot of those rules did service him very well. They fit with his approach, they fit with his fighting style very well, and so we want to maintain those things. Things that did change here, though. I bumped him up to 160 points or 8 power. I gave him 14-inch movement, so 4 inches more movement, and +1 attack, so now he's at attack 6. Otherwise, the stat line stays the same. His weapons, the high-intensity plasma rifle and Dawn Blade, also stay the same. I don't think that those need to be augmented in any particular way, nor do I think that the model necessitates that they're, improved in any way. He does have this new rule that I put in here, the Supernova Battlesuit. It says, in your command phase, select one additional friendly Farsight Enclaves unit within 9 inches of Commander Farsight to benefit from the Exemplar of the Mon-Ka Warlord trait. So this allows him to select 2 units instead of just 1 to have Exemplar of the Mon-Ka. And that is something that I think works out very well. In reflecting the command and control node, basically you're getting improved wounding on multiple units now instead of just 1. And there is some context specificity there where, how often are you going to have those multiple units? How large are those units going to be? How much mileage are you getting out of this? And of course, there are the restrictions of, the units that they can target anyway, right? So Exemplar Mon-Ka on 2 units, on units that are relatively close to them, I think that that's a good benefit without being insanely broken. The comments will disagree with me, I'm assuming. There's the integrated hexagrammatic talisman, which is, the talisman of Arthas Moloch. It says in your opponent's psychic phase, this model can attempt to deny 1 psychic power as if it were a psyker. Basically just psyker defense, right? There are ways that we could make that even more wild, right? We could give him feel no pains against mortal wounds or whatever, but this seems like a pretty baseline thing. It is a full deny as opposed to a D6 deny like we have for Sisters or Shield of Faith, anything like that. But the talisman has historically been a relatively potent tool for psychic defense. So I think a full deny is reasonable with that in mind. Shield generator is the same. Tactical acumen is the same. I did consider giving him a different trait here, coming up with something new, maybe a hybridization of the Crisis and Cold Star abilities, but tactical acumen just does fit Farsight very well, and it seems like a shortcoming to have him not have that, especially if he's going to be taking the place of a Crisis commander in the list. So I think tactical acumen is actually a very thematic and appropriate rule for him to retain, even though he's not in a Crisis suit any longer. Master of War is the same, and the rest of the Daz slate is the same as well. So again, I think these are modest tweaks with a notable price increase that make him both more effective and do so in a relatively reasonable way. So I'm going to be using these rules for him going forward until 10th edition comes and he gets his own, updated set of rules. He has to have updated rules because everybody gets updated rules. But presumably they will be reflective of the new model as well as just being updated in general. So this is what I'll be using. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please use these rules if you think they are interesting. But let me know how it goes in the comments below if you do. As always, thanks for watching and happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want to pick up one of the Invasive Wargaming models before they become unavailable, head on over to the Invasive Wargaming Etsy store in the description below. Also, if you like this video, you should know that it is made possible by my kind sponsor, the Magna Baron, as well as the excellent folks over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel, you can certainly hop on over there and join our community. Special thanks to Shifty, Durza, Everett Keller, Stephen Cowan, Jack Inacker, Jared Egler, and Scott Heater.